lounging, son.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and I got another holiday comic book for you guys. I have Daredevil 253. This is from the Nocenti and John Romita Jr. run. Like I said before, when I was doing some research looking for what holiday or Christmas comic books could I do to kind of showcase on the channel, some stories that I've read, some that are new to me for the very first time, and this was one of the ones I discovered for the first time. And how could I pass up Daredevil? I love Daredevil. I know there's quite a few Daredevil comics or Christmas related comic books out there, but as I'm not as familiar with the Nocenti and John Romita Jr. run, I had to pick this up, and I never read this one this first time, and had a striking image with Kingpin on the cover, holding Daredevil's mask, even says Merry Christmas Daredevil at the top, and so excited to share this with you guys because I really enjoyed it. Much like the other issues that I'm going to talk about, these are all one and done issues, self-contained. You can pick them up. You don't need to pick up the issue before. You don't have to pick up the issue prior if you don't want to. If you want to, awesome. If not, you can read these comic books and enjoy them for what they are, because this was an era of comic books where they weren't always writing for the trade. They were writing as if it were your first comic book. So let's get into this. Like I said, Ann Nocenti was the writer, John Romita Jr. penciler, Al Williamson inker, Joe Rosen letters, Max Scheele on colors, Ralph Macchio was editor, and Tom DeFalco was the editor-in-chief. So we open up. We jump right into Hell's Kitchen. And the streets of Hell's Kitchen, as anybody that's read Daredevil knows, are teeming with crime and full of just some of New York's worst. These two guys that are part of a gang, and they're up to no good, talking trash to women on the side, and as they're driving by, we see this young kid, right, who as we'll see through the issue is a main focal point of this issue, and he sees them, and instead of saying, and he's admiring them, thinking, oh, they're fearless. They're the Wild Boys. That's the name of this crew, and how he wish he could ride with them. And as they pull up to this Santa that's collecting money for the homeless children, they decide they're going to rob him, knock him out. And the kid, even as he's seeing this, and this is obviously wrong, he doesn't see it that way. He's like, oh man, he looks hurt. Maybe I should help him. But man, I wish I could be with them, because nobody pushes them around. And above all of this is Daredevil witnessing this crime and how much he's not going to stand for it, especially not on Christmas Eve. And while his super senses could easily find the Wild Boys, he has to attend to the people he has to help the helpless first. The kid asked him if he saw him, and this kid's nickname is 8-Ball. And, Daredevil knows everybody in Hell's Kitchen, right? He knows everybody that's living there. And he even tells the kid, oh, should I have been impressed at those guys? No, of course not. So he helps the Santa that got knocked out and stole the money, and this is where this is why this 8-Ball is an important character to this story, because he is enamored with this crew, right? These lowlifes, and Daredevil says, oh, so you thought they were cool? You want to run with them, huh? And it starts to make 8-Ball kind of think, like, maybe these aren't cool. Maybe it's not cool to do what these guys are doing. And we see the rest of 8-Ball's, friends coming over, and, Ralph and Darla, and Darla sees his new skateboard, and she's like, oh man, I wish I could get one of these as, for Christmas, a present. And 8-Ball's kind of a jerk, man. He tells her, oh, your mama junkie, or your dad that's a drunk? How are you gonna get it? Christmas isn't for us. Like, these kids are like tough and hardened by the streets of Hell's Kitchen, and are not privileged, do not think of Christmas as necessarily a happy time and getting what they want. If they want something, they're going to have to steal it. And, as Daredevil's talking with the cops are like, oh man, honestly, they're not going to do shit, probably, because it's Christmas Eve, and they got to be with their families. And they ask Daredevil if he can help. But always keeping an eye running away. And he thinks it's funny, like, oh, so they must assume that I don't have a family, and Maybe they're right. And at the time, Matt was running a nonprofit drug and legal clinic in Hell's Kitchen. So all the people that he's being there for, all the people he's helping, are all at this Christmas party, and all of them thanking him for everything he's done, and how he realizes that these people are kind of like a family, right? And he's gonna help them have a great Christmas. And he mentions too how the kingpin of crime, took everything from him. That was from the Born Again story arc that preceded Ann Nocenti's run. And as he's telling them this, we get the scene with Kingpin, and he's obsessed with Matt Murdock, and he's pissed, and what has he done now? And he's continuing, even though he's lost everything. He's continuing to defeat Kingpin in the little ways by preventing him from taking control of Hell's Kitchen through real estate or pressuring people to sell their buildings to him so that he can accumulate more power. And whoever's working for Kingpin is telling him all this, and as he's telling him this too, we see this fly buzzing around, which I kind of like. As I'm reading it, I was thinking like it's kind of like Matt Murdock. He's kind of like this fly that just keeps irritating Kingpin, and he can't defeat him, and no matter how big of a swing he does, he keeps losing. And the guy's telling him, he's like, you already crushed Murdoch once. Let me deal with some of this stuff. And Kingpin's pissed and thinking maybe I should have used a little bit more subtlety. And Kingpin's always been one of my favorite villains. I know he was introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 50, but he really becomes the perfect foil for Daredevil and the perfect archenemy. And I love how the guy's even like, Christmas is tomorrow, and he's like, okay, and he says what a waste of a day, and he asks for Christmas off, and he's like, no, you can't have the day off, and see to it that you make sure that there's a meeting of the board tomorrow. He wants the lot. He wants the tallest building in Manhattan, and he wants to cast his shadow over everyone. See the Wild Boys breaking and stealing shit. Daredevil makes quick work of them. I love this. I love Romita Jr.'s take on Daredevil too. I think he's one of the best Daredevil artists, right up there with Frank Miller, in my eyes. I love the use of. I love the way he shows how he defeats him, and he does it without showing him actually fighting. Just Daredevil using his billy club and his feet, and we just see that all these like little panels. Even telling them, "I could kill you. I know how to apply just enough pressure." I love this. Merry Christmas, scum. And he leaves him tied up. Then he notices 8-Ball. 8-Ball stealing shit out of the back of the Wild Boy's trunk. And he sits there. He tells him, man, you got to give it back. Has you ever heard of bread cast on the waters? If you spend your days giving to people whenever you can, some of that goodness may float back your way just when you need it most. And I think it's such a great message for Daredevil to give this kid who could potentially go down the path of these other criminals in Hell's Kitchen. And just that one line by Daredevil makes 8-Ball second guess his behavior. We see the store owners come back and they give all the merchandise to Daredevil, and they say Merry Christmas. And Matt has just the perfect idea of what he's gonna do with this stuff. And then we jump back to 8-Ball, and we see Darla, and she's eyeballing the skateboard that she wants so bad. And we get a little interaction between 8-Ball and stuff, and where he kind of like insinuating that, like, oh man, could they like each other? And 8-Ball pulls the helmet over her, calls her a name, kicks over the skateboard, and she's like, hey, you left your skateboard. And that interaction between Daredevil and 8-Ball made him have a change of heart and made him do something that was not for himself and not selfish. And he gave the skateboard to her, brings her to tears. Kingpin sitting, stewing, obsessing over Matt Murdock, and he defeats him again. They've lost yet another lot to the owner, changing his mind and doesn't want to sell to Kingpin, and continuing to obsess over Matt Murdock. And of course, it wouldn't be a Christmas issue if it didn't end on a happy note. Matt comes in, all the gifts from the store owners that they gave him to Daredevil. And Matt even gives 8 Ball a skateboard, and 8 Ball's wondering how he knew, and the only reason he knew is because he witnessed. What we can only imagine is he witnessed 8 Ball giving that to Darla and wanted to prove to him that when you do nice things for others, nice things come back. He's ever obsessed with Matt. He's posted outside the clinic and sees how far Matt's fallen. He says, and that he crushed him, and he's not done with Matt. He's still gonna find a way to hurt him, and he knows just the right way to do it, and it's through Matt's kind heart. And we end it on a homeless person coming up asking for money, and we end there. And I can only imagine what Kingpin did. I think we all can imagine what he did to the homeless guy. There's very few artists that I think have a good handle on the way Kingpin's drawn. While I do love Mazzucchelli, I do love Frank Miller, Romita Jr. and Bill Sienkiewicz might draw my favorite Kingpin. I think that the way they make him look so larger than life and so intimidating, especially the way he does it in the eyes, it's just amazing. And that was Daredevil 253. Another awesome Christmas comic. And again, I'm loving going through these holiday comics. I hope you guys are too. Make sure you, if you can, relatively cheap. These aren't too expensive. You can find them online. Maybe back issue bins. I highly recommend it. And if you're not already following us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Throw your comments or suggestions down below, or you can email us at thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. And make sure you hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time a new episode goes up. We're on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes. And on that note, I'm out.